Priest versus Priest is actually our first matchup that we're coming into, and not a surprise to see Dragon Priest on one side. I didn't quite catch that what that mulligan was on the top side. Was that
It's a Blackman Corruptor,
yep,
so it's Dragon versus Dragon.
And this is a matchup that it can get really ugly really quickly, or you can find this being like the toe-to-toe grind battle the entire time. But right from the get-go, I take a look at these hands, and the thing I'm noticing is lots of powerful 3-drops versus a lack of them. So yeah. Trinity College going to be looking to pick up something to fight through that mid-game, where West Virginia is going to be starting off their curve a little bit earlier. They're being able to coin into a 3-drop, play a 3-drop on curve, and then have a Twilight Guardian on top of that. Yeah. So it's going to be a matter of whether or not their curve can fight against the potential card advantage that this Northshire Cleric can generate from healing and drawing extra cards, or is Trinity College not going to be able to stabilize through these minions?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And this comes down, it's sort of like a tempo battle is what this is. And you said it, it's usually like a grindy battle, or one team or player, team in this case, goes really far ahead of the other. And we see that at Mage a lot. Priest is a little bit more feast or famine because their hero power doesn't interact with the board, so if they fall behind, it's tougher for them to come back in the match.
So Trinity actually has one option or two options in front of them, and neither of them are very appealing right now. Like they could just pick up an extra card, and that foregoes development, or they could use the Velen's Chosen now, but there's a couple things to risk with that. Number one is you're not picking up a card from Northshire Cleric. And then number two is, are you worried about Shadow Word Pain at all? If you choose to load up that Northshire Cleric and then it gets Shadow Word Pain, you just lost 2 cards and you didn't really get any benefit from it. Yeah, so they're going to just choose to draw, look for that curve, that mid-range curve that they need to start fighting against this, because when you see a coin into a 3-drop, you have to anticipate there's a lot more action to follow behind that.
Stand ready.
In West Virginia, the same goes for them on their Velen's Chosen. They could have easily taken out this Northshire Cleric, but it's not presenting a large threat right now. And if they load up too much on a single minion and they face Shadow Word Death, it's that exact same risk. Like, how consequential was that damage at the end of the day versus losing 2 cards for 1?
Yeah, it's tough to sort of pinpoint like which play ends up being the most beneficial after it all. But Trinity College now, they didn't fall too far behind early on. Yeah, they're behind, but they do have lots of comeback tools with all of their AoE spells in their hand right now.
Yeah, I mean, having the Light Bomb in your hand certainly is a way to get back in this game if things get a little bit out of control. But right now, they do have to start worrying about what's on the board, because West Virginia's turn is looking like they're going to have some fantastic trades on their hands. And again, this is one of those scary positions for Trinity, where if they see Twilight Guardian behind this and it gets buffed, that is, I mean, this could spell lights out just from these couple of powerful early plays.
Yeah. Also, since these cards don't line up with Light Bomb that much, and Priest against a Priest is a class that can sort of heal up their minions in a way that can play around Light Bomb. Yeah. The big thing is trying to play around Light Bomb and Holy Nova, but it seems like they're not going to really have too much of an issue with that.
You even saw a physical reaction from Trinity there, like, wow, this is your curve? Like, yeah. This is a devastating one, and this is what I was referring to. All these very aggressive decks, they want to get on the board early and overwhelm you. Well, when your opponent's kind of playing one step slower than you, and as a result of that, their minions are a lot more powerful in terms of stats, you find yourself in this position. Like, they don't want to have to use this Vol'jin quite this early, but I feel like they almost have to in this spot. But it ends up being a pretty fantastic position for them, but something to consider now is, again, this battle often goes very late game. They don't have an easy answer to a card like Ysera anymore, where in normal cases, you Vol'jin the Ysera, you get a 6-12 out of the deal, and you pick off that powerful minion. Yeah, they've been forced to play it early just to try to fight for tempo. So this is really a key turn to think about in this game. Did they have to play Vol'jin here? And frankly, to keep the board from slipping away, I think they might have had to.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of an error there. They could have guaranteed that the buff from the Dark Cultist would have gone on the Blackman Technician to keep it alive. Not punished.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say what's punished. I mean, I definitely can see the benefits of a 5/7 or having the extra 3/3. I mean, I think they both spell pretty decent things for you. You know, if you leave the 3/3 around, suddenly Light Bomb looks a lot better against you. Suddenly Blackwing Corruptor gets a little bit more value versus having the 5/7, which, you know, risks that Shadow Word Death. So some risk and rewards on both sides. I don't think there's really a quality way to play around that. The benefit they get from this side of it, though, is that the Light Bomb clears their board, but it yields them initiative.
Yeah. Very true. And Trinity College, they look a little bit stressed, but I mean, this game is far from over.
Right. Here's the thing. They stabilize through that early pressure, which is a difficult thing to do. But the big problem with it is that they know they had to use that. They know they had to use that Vulcan, which is an extremely powerful tool in the later stages. And that it's kind of, this is almost like a chess match where every little tiny thing matters. Getting that Vulcan out early, it's almost like a pawn was taken from Trinity College in this spot, and so they're gonna have their work cut out for them if they want to make up that disadvantage.
Yeah, Shrinkmeister Cabal is not usually a combination that Dragon Priest has the luxury of running, so there really are limited ways to deal with the Ysera. So
West Virginia,
it's gonna be tough. Oh, but Trinity actually picks up their own, so
that's a big draw too. But the other thing too is West Virginia loading up on the Northside Cleric. This is pretty darn risky. I mean, spots like this where Shadow Word Pain could potentially be extremely powerful versus you.
But how likely will you find a Shadow Word Pain in a Dragon Priest deck?
That's a difficult question. If it's going to be there, it's usually a one of, I'd say. But I think it's totally fine. Like being able to kill shielded Minibot very cleanly for 2 mana. It's something that's important. Maybe to help fight through Sludge Belcher in a spot where you have just a bunch of 3/5s that would have to attack into it anyway. A lot of different things come into effect there. I would be surprised to see one. But they feel like they've weighed the options and determined this is what they need to do to make sure they have enough time to get to Ysera.
Yeah. Oh, that Northside Cleric is a huge problem if they don't have a way to deal with it, which they don't. It's going to keep drawing cards. It's going to keep up the tempo for West Virginia, and they have a plethora of options here. They can go with like a Velen's Chosen on their Twilight Whelp in order to trade into the Azure Drake and heal it up to draw a card. They can use Blackwing Corruptor and then trade in the Twilight Whelp and heal it up again to draw a card. So
yeah, everything rolling West Virginia's way because they've invested so heavily in this defensive position. I mean, this is the benefit of taking this risk, is when it pays off. Your position looks fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, well, there is a Shrinkmeister, so that leads us to believe that there is a Cabal Shadow Priest. Probably at least one.
It's got to be somewhere in that deck. I mean, Shrinkmeister does not. This isn't a card that you just use like, yeah, well, it'd be great in combat.
Well, it can be a tempo-oriented play sometimes, but
it can be. That's the flexibility of the card. But if you find this in a priest deck, it is dedicated to making sure that you can take something significant with Cabal Shadow Priest, I imagine.
Yeah. All right. Well, Shadow of Death not picked up. So West Virginia doesn't have a way to punish this immediately, but they do have a couple of ways to cycle. And they can just, trade into it the old-fashioned way. Good old minion combat.
Just good old 2-for-1s on the side of Trinity College.
Well, they can
it's 2 for 2. They did use the Velen's Chosen. Yeah.
Yeah, they could Power Word Shield and Velen's Chosen when they trade in. That's like a lot of resources. But really, what choice do they have? Because if they leave it up and they leave the spell power up, they're really susceptible to a big swing turn with something like a Holy Nova.
This is a tough position to be in. It's just, here's the other thing that happens in this matchup, which is kind of crazy to say, but you can't draw too many cards in this matchup as well. I mean, you need to find the fine balance between it, because again, if it goes that super late game situation, now you're looking at fatigue possibilities.
Oh, one card too late.
Yeah, just a tad off base there, but they are starting to take the lead in damage now, and so Trinity College is the one having to answer this position. Shadow Word Death, not a great target since they just have the direct attack anyway.
Yeah.
I see a lot of beneficial things they can do, but are they good enough that they really want to pull that trigger right now, or are they going to continue to wait? Because again, West Virginia now has started the pressure just a little bit, and so you can't ignore these minions forever. At some point, you have to take care of them. How do you take care of them the right way? Like, you don't want to dedicate too much stuff and then not have enough later on. You don't want it to undercommit and then be just tempoed out of the game.
Just slam the Ysera.
Honestly,
real alpha move.
Honestly, drawing the Shadow Word Death late might have benefited West Virginia in some way. Like, maybe Trinity College kind of oversteps their boundaries here, like looking at that position and going, there's no way they would have held Shadow Word Death with this 7-8 on board.
Yeah. Looks like they're thinking of a Holy Nova here.
Yeah, I don't mind the Holy Nova, but it certainly is kind of ugly looking. You leave your opponent with a 5-1 and a 4-1. I mean, that can't feel good, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they have the second Holy Nova.
Well, your opponent's just going to trade here. I mean, this is like the dream trades, is when you have the 5-1 and the 4-1 left over.
Yeah.
I could definitely see a Ysera drop here. They're at a very healthy life total. The Ysera will contest whatever's really left on the board. So they're going to start drawing dream cards. And the more time you give your opponent, the more likely they are to find an answer to it. And you've already seen the Vol'jin. Is there a better turn for it? That's really the question here, I think, for West Virginia. Or is there something they could do that's even more beneficial with their hand right now?
The longer you wait for the Ysera, the more likely they are to draw into Schinkmeister Cabal if they have it.
Right.
So it's never like you're trying to... Well, you can try and bait it out, but there's not really that many creatures that they have that they could bait it out. Azure Drake is another one that's susceptible to it.
They're going to try to just snag themselves some extra value.
Quickly.
So these are looking like pretty clean trades. You're left with a 5-1. You take out the Cabal Shadow Priest without the benefit. You even get a Worm Rest Agent of the deal. Maybe they're trying to bait the Cabal Shadow Priest with this Worm Rest Agent. That's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think Trinity College is going to fall for that, even if they would have drawn Cabal Shadow Priest here.
Yeah. Especially since they know that there's a dragon that's been sitting in the hand for like the whole game.
Yeah.
You know that's got to be Ysera.
Here's the other thing, too, though. Are they looking at their board position now and going, you know what, we're at 20. This will start contesting the board pressure. Maybe we just drop Ysera. And I can tell you what, oftentimes the first player to play a Ysera on a relatively stable position, usually the one with the advantage.
Yeah, Ysera, and then you give them the old threaten emote.
5, 6, 7, 8. Unless they want to use Light Bomb this turn, that Ysera is not going anywhere.
I mean, they could counter with their own Ysera, and then they have a board.
It's definitely true.
But they're one dream card behind.
Here's the other thing, too. Your opponent just got their own dream card. So if they have the card Dream, which returns a minion, if they have Nightmare, they could buff it, maybe Shadow or Death it. That's 2 more outs that they have that can actually take care of your Ysera at this point. That's part of the reason why being the first player to play it is so powerful.
Yeah. Then at the same time, the longer, if you're not going to deal with it, the longer you leave it up, the more likely they're just going to have more and more dream cards that's going to be able to deal with it.
This is a scary position to be in, and often what this match turns into is it's dictated by your Ysera. I mean, Trinity College, looking at their hand, they basically had to take a risk. They had to say, you know what, I really hope you don't have Cabal Shadow Priest and Schinkmeister. I hope you don't have Vol'jin to take care of this.
Yeah.
And West Virginia, they realize that their best game plan against this is to just start attacking, and they get 5 extra damage from their own Ysera, so this could just end up being a play that massively benefited them by just taking this aggressive stance, just adding more minions and starting to pressure.
Yeah, and Trinity College draws into another creature, which doesn't give them immediate impact over the board.
I think you're pretty darn likely to see a Holy Nova or a Shadow or Death this turn, just to try to fight for tempo.
Ellen's Chosen makes Ysera Awakens. 6 damage? Oh my gosh.
That's so much.
One more than 5.
No man has ever dealt that much damage before. I imagine if you're going to attack, you probably want to use this Holy Nova first to deny a card draw to your opponent. Had they used it afterwards, that Northshire Cleric would have seen a minion get healed and would be drawing them a card. So great sequencing here from Trinity. 5.
That's it, I think.
I see 9, 10,
oh, no,
11.
It's not.
I see 11, 12.
That's it.
13, 14, 15 points of damage.
Yep.
West Virginia.
Oh, look at him doing a little dance.
That's the I have lethal dance.
Yeah.
Sign him, Kanye. Holy Nova for 3. Ysera's Awakens 4/6. Sorry, Ysera, you may not get damaged by it, but your owner does, unfortunately. And a Ysera without an owner is like a dog lost in a dog park without a leash or an owner.